Ladies and gentlemen, we're back and I bring to you the Shama Factor Part 2. And in the Shama Factor Part 2, Ebed Shama was the phrase that we were talking about in the past. Ebed Shama, that phrase in which Samuel, the boy Samuel, sitting there in the temple, God speaking to him, Samuel, 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 and he's not understanding that it's the Lord, so he keeps going into Eli and he's like, Eli, dude, here I am. What is it that you want me to do for you? And Eli's like, bro, it's not me, Samuel. It's not me calling you. Well, sooner or later, Eli gets wisdom and says, Samuel, it's the Lord talking to you. God's been calling you. The next time he calls you, I want you to stand up and say, oh, speak, Lord. Your servant hears. Ebed Shama. And we know that phrase, as we discussed in the Shama Factor Part 1, it means not just simply to hear with your ear, but it means to hear with the intention of obedience. God, whatever it is you tell me you want me to do, that will I do. Well, I want to remind you, okay? Check this out. Here's Samuel's mom. She's praying to the Lord. Lord, open my womb. Let me have a child. And if you do, I'll surrender him to the temple and he'll live there with the priest. Samuel's mom was a dedicated, she's a God-fearer. She loved the Lord. She prayed. Samuel's very birth was a miracle, miraculous. And there Samuel is hanging out with church folk. He's with Eli, the priest, living inside the temple and doing the work in the temple. That's radical stuff because he wasn't understanding the voice of the Lord. He was not hearing from God. He did not know God personally at this moment, at this time in his life. And I have to sit back and ask myself, are there people in the church, maybe you, maybe one of your relatives, maybe somebody you know, where maybe they've been around the church, maybe their mom or dad are dedicated Christians, maybe they've seen miracles, maybe they've participated in ministry, but yet they just simply do not know God intimately and personally. If that's you, maybe you've been playing church for quite some time. Playing church, man, you're going to miss out because the whole purpose of going to church, the importance of reading the scripture, of praying, is that we might know God intimately and personally. So if you don't know him, please email me, contact me somehow. And I'd like to introduce you to God and make sure that you know this King, that you're not simply playing church. But hopefully you can also get a little bit of insight on what to do here inside this message. Nonetheless, let's pick up in Genesis chapter 22. It says, now it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham and said, Abraham, to which he replied, here I am. Now that's interesting because it's similar to 1 Samuel 3 in which God said, Samuel, and he said, here I am. Samuel, here I am. Man, it's the same language. Coincidence? I don't know, but I just noticed it, so I got to mention it to you. Well, God then speaks to him and he says, take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. That's radical stuff. Here Abraham is, and he says, here I am, whatever you tell me I'll do. But then God sticks him with something crazy that he's not necessarily going to understand in totality. He says, take your kid up into the land of Moriah, and I want you to stick it to him, kill him, sacrifice him to me. What a radical thing. But nonetheless, God gives us these pictures in the Old Testament to help us understand New Testament principles. And I think the key here is simply this. If God tells you to do something, if he's asking you to do something, even if it's something tough or even if it's something you don't understand, trust him. Proverbs chapter 3, 5, 6, and maybe verse 7, I don't remember exactly, but it says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart and don't lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your path. Trust, man. Trust in God even when he asks you to do something that's difficult. Let's see how he responded. It says, Abraham arose early in the morning and he saddled his donkey and he took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son, and he split the wood for the burnt offering, and he rose and went to the place of which God had told him. He went to the place God told him, the land of Moriah. Now this is significant because the land of Moriah, the word, it means in Hebrew, foreseen by God. You see, God was calling Abraham to go to a place that he had already seen because God knows past, present, and future. God's not trying to figure stuff out. He already knows. Now Abraham trusted that God had already perceived and knew the outcome of whatever was about to take place. So he goes and he saddles his donkey and he arises early and he leaves. He goes. There was no procrastination. He went immediately as soon as the Lord had given him direction. It says in verse 6 that Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and he laid it on Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and the knife, and the two of them went together. But Isaac spoke to Abraham his father and said, "My father." He said, "Here I am, my son." And he said, "Look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering?" And Abraham said, "My son, God will provide himself the lamb for a burnt offering." Well, the story goes on. And they went together, and Isaac went willingly with his father. So Abraham prepares his son. He's got him bound. He's tied. He's laid up right there on the altar. And he's got that knife, that dagger. He's about to plunge it right into his son. And God stops him. God stops him. And he says, "Hey, Abraham, now I know. You passed the test, my friend. You passed the test." And you know, there in the thickets there was a ram, and God provided a sacrifice for him there on Mount Moriah. But here's what strikes me, and this is the whole point of the Shama Factor Part 2. I want to bring something, I want you to notice something here. In chapter 22, in verse 17, after this all takes place, God says, "Blessing I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply your descendants as the stars of the heaven and of the sand of which is on the seashore, and your descendants shall possess the gate of their enemies. In your seed, Abraham, in your seed, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice." Radical stuff. God says, man, you have obeyed my voice. That word obey there is the same word that we saw in 1 Samuel chapter 3. The word Shema. Abraham, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to bless all the descendants after you. All the nations of the earth are going to be blessed through your seed. You shall possess the gates of your enemy, because you have shema'd my voice. Because you've said in your heart, "Lord, whatever you say, that will I do." Christian, brother, sister, be encouraged. Set your heart before the Lord and say to him today, "Lord, speak. Whatever you say, I will do." And I want to encourage you to be faithful. Do whatever it is God tells you. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate. Be like Abraham. Arise early to do the very thing that God's asking of you. And trust in him. He knows what he's doing. Shema him. The Shama Factor. Apply it to your life. If you got questions or comments, you need prayer, please contact me. We got a 24-hour prayer line on pyro86.com. That's www.pyro86.com. And we'd love to talk with you. The Shama Factor. Ebed Shama. Lord, speak to us. Your church, your people will do whatever it is you tell us. This is Pyro86, Eric from pyro86.com, representing the 116 click. I'm unashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, for it is the power of salvation to all who believe. And that's you. Peace out.